Hi, everybody. We are very, very happy with Fabiola to host this panel with Susan Elizabeth Phillips, Brenda Jackson, and Jayne Ann Krentz. I think you need no presentation. You ladies are very well known by our readers. So let's jump into our question. Our first question was, how do you become a pioneer? You are both, you are all of you pioneers of romance. So how do you become a pioneer? Is it a deliberate decision to make things differently? And have you sometimes been compelled to go back mainstream by the publisher or your readers? So who would like to begin?
So you get to become a pioneer by being old.
Oh, really? No.
No, that's not right.
No, you were a pioneer with your first book, I think.
I rehearsed something. I have rehearsed something and I didn't get a chance to do it. Bonjour mes amis, je suis si contente d'être avec vous aujourd'hui.
Great.
Wow. Very good.
3 years of high school French, and that's an advantage. Anyway, that's what I have to say about being a pioneer. What about you, Brenda and Jayne?
Wow, I never hey, all I wanted to do was write and follow in you ladies' footsteps. I did not saw myself as a pioneer. But of course, during the time I began writing, there was really not a lot of Black romances out there. So I think most people think of me not as a pioneer, but as a trailblazer, because I became the first of so many things because no one else had forged that path. Like I became the first African-American to make the New York Times and the USA bestseller list. I became the first one to write for Desire. And so I look more not as a pioneer, but as a trailblazer, one that opened it up for other young African-American or minority women of color to follow behind me. So no, I never set it out this way because I was working full time in corporate America and that's what I wanted to do. I love corporate America. So I just wanted to write a book and just be through with it and write one when I got ready. And then it became an obsession because I enjoyed writing.
And I second that. I think it just becomes an obsession. The first one is like a one-off. You don't really expect to build a whole career out of it. I never did. I think I just started writing because I was reading a lot of romance and there came a time when I just wanted to tell the story my way. I didn't think I could do it better than anybody else. I just thought I just wanted it my story. And that, like Brenda said, that's what becomes the obsession. And the more you do it,
the more,
the more you do it.
Yeah.
So I don't think any of us saw ourselves as pioneers. We just happened to be at whatever point in the career path that we were on, and that's where we went.
Well, for me, I made my mark as creating the sports romance. And this was something that happened accidentally because when I started writing, actually my first sports romance was a book, the US title was Fancy Pants. And it was the first of the Wynette, Texas books. It wasn't the Chicago Stars books. But when I wrote that book that was about the world of professional golf, which is the single most boring world there you can imagine. But I had a good hero. Anyway, when I started that, I did not know, but there was a rule in publishing that you were not allowed to write about rock stars, actors, or sports. But I didn't know that there was a rule. So I just plunged in pure ignorance and managed to create this field. There was absolutely no pre-planning on my part. I just stumbled along. But I think Jayne's right. None of us, we all, I know, feel really fortunate with the state of publishing to still be writing and still have this wonderful reader base. But it's I think for all of us, it's kind of one book at a time. It's not a sense of being a pioneer. It's writing the best book we can at any particular time.
Right.
And I think it's fair to say that those of us who survived this long, we write first for ourselves. You know, the story has to work for us.
Yes.
And that's whatever power we have, that's where it comes from. At least for me, and I'm sure it is for both of you. It's just.
Yes, it does. Yes.
But Brenda had a really interesting path. One of the things that happened in US publishing is, I know Jayne and I, we saw that we had a lot of African American readers, and we weren't writing stories for that community. And I have memories going back more than 20 years of going to publishers and saying, there is a huge audience here and you're not satisfying it. And the publishers would say, and this wasn't just my this was a lot of them.
Right.
I got obsessed with this because I knew it was an untapped market, just from a business sense, not even talking about a fairness sense. And the publisher said, well, we don't know how to reach that demographic.
Yeah.
Well, that's an odd statement because my first editor, Vivian Stevens, was African American.
Yeah.
And she bought books. She bought from Sandra Kitt, you know, I mean, she bought books from a diverse group of writers, but she also had just great instincts for the romance. She just knew what readers across the board wanted to read, and she bought with her intuition. And it just,
the only one, you know,
Yeah.
she was kind of a voice in the wilderness. Anyway, it's been interesting to watch that develop. And I mean, trailblazers like Brenda put up with a whole set of challenges that Jayne and I didn't have to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That's true.
Yeah.
what did you think?
I think Vivian could, because she was successful in her career, they let her choose romance novels, but I think they didn't let her choose anything, I think.
I'm sure she was hampered just because of the whole issue of, well, where are we going to put the books? How about in the bookstore? I mean, that was, it was interesting times. But I think we're all just so fortunate to still be writing. Although I have to say, my France is not a strong country for me. It's been really, it's been hard to get my books published in the French language, as opposed to Germany, which is, you know, a huge audience for me. And I think that there's a big untapped market for romance in France, and they really haven't gotten into that. Do you guys agree with me about that?
My God.
Yes, I do too.
Thank you. I hope publishers will look at this video,
Yes.
because of course I'm lobbying for your books. I've been for years. I hope I will prevail sometime, because I can't understand. I can't understand that.
We can't either.
Each time we see J'ai Lu, we always tell them why there is not Susan Elizabeth Phillips anymore. Each time, each year.
Yeah, keep at them, because we're trying from our end, but they have not been particularly responsive. And they are a good publisher, and they're great authors, but just not me. Is J'ai Lu publishing either of you?
Is who what now?
J'ai Lu, the French publisher, are they publishing you, Brenda, or you, Jayne?
No.
No, I know Harlequin.
Not
they
a
are
lot.
sending some of my books over there, but you know, not all of my books. My Desires are printed, my Westmorelands are printed in French. But as far as I know, my bigger Harlequin single titles, my HSNs, my HQNs are not.
Yeah.
And for Jayne, they only publish the new series under Amanda Quick.
Yes, that's actually pretty typical for me throughout Europe. If I get published, often it's just the Amanda Quick. It's just the historicals that people are interested in. Yeah. Sometimes by Jayne Ann Krentz name, but you probably know better than I am because you see the books or you don't see the books. But I think in general it's been mostly for me the historicals. I think people just love the costumes. Love the clothes.
Yeah.
But we are asking for you too. We are asking, yeah, of course.
One of the challenges with my books has been because not my standalone books, but my Chicago Stars books, it's about American football, which doesn't seem to be a problem in any other country.
No.
Because it's not about football. You know, it's not like I'll write football books, there's not a single football game in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now they sometimes have ideas. I don't know. We are looking for military romance also, and they are absolutely adamant that military romance won't work in France. But we know it will because we read this in English. So, but it's very long time before we convince them that yes, perhaps you could try that. Yes.
I have a question actually.
Okay.
Why do you think France and Germany are even buying American authors? Why don't they have their own romance writers?
Oh, Jane, you just insulted all my German friends. There's a huge stable of German writers.
Yeah.
But one of the things
right.
that's happening in Eastern Europe and in Germany is the minute they publish, the books are getting pirated and they can't make a living. The authors cannot make a living. It's a real problem, especially with my Eastern Europe friends, but also German writers, they just can't make a living at it.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. Good information. I didn't.
Yeah.
There are French writers too. I write romance novels too.
Are you getting
Yes.
published, Fabiola? Are you getting your novels published?
One novel was published with a French publisher and the rest as indie.
All right.
So
Excellent.
there are historicals and contemporary romance.
Oh, that's good to know. Thank you. I'm glad I asked. Yeah. I did not realize.
Fabiola, when you have a book come out, let us know. And I'll post on my Facebook page if you have a book coming out in French for our French readers. So
Okay. I will let you
Absolutely.
know. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Same here.
Thank you very much.
Well, this is good information.
it is. It's super interesting. A lot more interesting than some of our boring US interviews.
But I still read the romance novels from you. So that's my problem because I read more than I write. That's why I don't write a lot of books each year, but that's not a problem.
Agnes, are you writing too? Are you reading? What is your connection?
I'm writing
What?
too, but I'm not published. I'm even slower than Fabiola.
Yes, she took a long time before writing her first novel. So,
But you can both do the indie thing. You can both do it the same way the U.S. authors do indie.
Yes.
yes.
So, yep, good.
You know, this could be a huge opportunity for those of you who want to write romance in the French language. Since the publishers are not publishing this book, you guys need to hop into this market, get your stuff out there, publish it independently and find your French readership. Because there's a huge gap there and you can fill it.
Right.
Hopefully.
You can. So hopefully about it.
Thank you.
You know what the secret is? In the US, we say the secret is butt in chair. In other words, the only way you get anything written is sitting there and writing, even when it's not easy, which is most of the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we can perhaps go to your latest books. Who wants to begin?
The latest books that published in France, or the latest one over here?
I think that we Fabiola.
The Girl Who Knew Too Much, the first volume in Burning Cove series, and Amanda Quick.
All right, good to know. It's well, I will just say that for me, the 1930s is a whole new historical setting.
I love the book.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's been fun because we have a strong tradition of 1930s romantic comedies and romantic suspense in the films, but we don't have it in the books. We don't have stories set in that area. Most of the stories set in that area are kind of dark mysteries that are all about the impending war, you know, the war that's coming and everything else. But I like the fantasy version of the 1930s from the movies, and that's kind of what inspired this series, the Burning Cove series. So thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
Are we seeing continuing characters in the new book, Jayne?
You know, my background cast of characters stays the same. The casino owner, the hotel owner, the reporter, you know, the basic kind of core characters, which are introduced in this first book, actually. The Girl Who Knew Too Much. But they are in the background for the next several books, and they're the kind of the community that the story's based on. Yeah.
Perhaps you could outline a bit the history of this, the storytelling of these books. Outline it a bit.
I'm
So-
sorry, what?
What is the background of this series? What inspired this series?
Okay. Yeah, I think it's just that I was looking for a new historical setting myself. And I have come to realize that a lot of the appeal to me as a writer and to readers of the historicals is the fantasy side of it. You know, not the real history of the time, but the fantasy version of the history, which is what is fun to escape into. And in the 20th century, it was always hard to look back and see a fantasy version because we were too close to it. You know, we'd grown up with the history. But some of those pre-war eras now are far enough in the past that they lend themselves to a fantasy scenario, and that's and the 1930s is in a way already there because of the movies. Even people today who were born, you know, 20 years ago, they know something about the 1930s movies. They're just part of our culture. So I had a world that was already in existence, if you will, which was similar to what happened when I went into the Regency world. It was already there in the sense it had been created by other writers before me. And readers knew it, and they could step right into it. They can step right into the world of Victorian London because everybody knows Sherlock Holmes. Everybody has a sense of that era. Everybody has a sense of the 1920s in the US, which was the Roaring 20s. So I think it's
What is
easier
the first book, Jayne, in that series?
the one Fabiola mentioned, the Girl Who Knew Too Much.
And then the second one is?
I don't remember.
Fabiola,
Get
no?
it together.
The Girl Who Vanished, I think.
Yeah,
No.
the other lady vanishes. That's right.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the third is, come on.
Stop. Just stop. Oh, you're making me look bad, pal. You're making me look real bad here. I don't
Well, I can say first I was surprised about the setting because I didn't wait for this one. But when I read the book, I knew it was you because it's your mark, and I absolutely love this book as always.
Thank you. Thank you. They're fun to write. They're fun to write.
Okay, so perhaps we can go to Brenda, and I think you have 2 books that are coming out.
Yes,
Fabiola?
I write for Desire. I write series romance, Harlequin Desire. I've been writing them for now maybe 14 years. My Westmoreland family, which is a very popular Desire family. And then I write HQN books, a Catalina Cove book. But what's interesting about this book, I was not due to write a Catalina Cove book, another one. I just got a 3-book contract, but they did so well because everyone is into small towns. And I was supposed to write about my very first original family, the Medeiros family. And so my publisher kept saying, we want you to write another Catalina Cove book. I'm like, I can't think of another Catalina Cove book. I want to write a Medeiros book. So we compromised, and I put a Medeiros in Catalina Cove.
Great.
And it came out well. So I'm satisfying the Catalina Cove people who wants a small town book. It's a shipping town made up in Louisiana, right outside of New Orleans. And then the people who follow, my readers who follow my Medeiros family, they're happy to get a new Medeiros book. So that comes out the 27th. And then next, on this coming Tuesday, I have a Desire come out. And I think it's like the 38th book in the series. The Westmoreland series have been running just that long. It's 38 books in that series. And people always ask me, when you going to end the series? Every time I think I've ended the series, my readers write and say, no, find more Westmorelands, find some more. They have cousins, they have uncles, whatever. And usually that's what I end up doing.
How do you keep track? How do you keep track of all those characters after so many books?
Gosh, I have a log, and my readers I have 3 readers who do stuff like that for a living. So they have volunteered. They could tell me who's had the babies, who's time for it to get pregnant, what their kids name, have to name kids, because we established a community. And if we get it wrong, my readers will let me know, even if their book was the 5th book. But that was something Nora Roberts, I sat in on one of her classes, and she said the best thing to do when you start writing is always write series. Because if someone read your 10th book and they enjoy it, they're going to want to go out and buy the 9 before it. And that's true. Now I've written 142 books, only one that's not connected to a series. That means everything else is part of a series. So I continuously have sales on all my books, even my old books. So
Okay.
That's good. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they're all in print. If they're not in print, traditionally, they're in print as an ebook. So yes, so it works fine for me. So yes, and I usually put out like 4 to 6 books a year.
That's an amazing pace to keep going.
I don't like you. I do not like you. So slow.
Well, once you know your family, once it's just like, okay, now it's time for us to write about Uncle Jim Bob or whoever, because you know him by then. And readers know him by then. I just find the last book he was in, find out what he was doing. Okay, time to tell his story. I'm good,
Oh,
So it's really easy for me to write series.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to write series. And readers, they have just this voracious appetite for the Chicago Stars books and my Wynette, Texas books. But I just run out of ideas. I was going to stop the Chicago Stars series after 4 books. I wrote a whole epilogue and everything, but then I got another idea. So my new book is the Chicago Stars book, and this is the one with the opera diva and the Chicago Stars quarterback. And I just got that idea, and it just made me laugh because the hero of the book is the backup, the second quarterback for the Chicago Stars. He's not the star quarterback. So he's always in second place. He's never in first place. And Olivia, the heroine, is an opera superstar. She's number 1. The 2 of them are forced together on this tour to promote a luxury watch. She has a big grudge against him, and really it is not going to go well. I love that the contrast, that churn between the hero and heroine. And in this case, he's not going to stand in anyone's shadow, and she casts a huge shadow.
Wow.
If I could just keep writing Chicago Stars books, I would be happy and my readers would be happy. But even though I know there are other families and I can connect, like with Brenda, what Brenda's saying, I just don't have a story for them. So that is one of the reasons I'm so slow. Plus, then I'll get an idea for a standalone book like Dance Away With Me, which has nothing to do with those. And I have to write that book, which is probably not good for my career. It would be better if writing those series books is really a huge secret to having a successful career. But I just haven't been able to do it. So I figure I've been writing a lot, you know, I'm just kind of at this point going where my heart takes me, and I just hope the readers go along. So the Dance Away With Me was a little more serious book. This one is just a romp. I think it's hysterical. I don't know if readers would think it's as funny as I do, but I think it's funny.
Okay, great. But even Nora Roberts writes standalones. She writes series, Nora Roberts, but she writes standalones also. No.
She does.
We are going to stop now for this virtual conference. We were very happy to have you with us tonight, and I hope J'ai Lu and other publishers watch this video for everything and for the translation of your books, all your books. So bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.